Sao Paulo is the largest city in South America, and race fans have been waiting for a year to welcome back the Eyes on IndyCar Series. Today, it's the Itaipava Sao Paulo Indy 300. Welcome to IndyCar Central on Versus, presented by Verizon. 26 drivers will challenge the 11-turn, 2.5-mile street course, completely repaved since last year, but they will also have to deal with, as you can see, some rain. It has started to rain just in the past few minutes. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with Wally Dallenbach, Jan Beekes, and Robin Miller. Kevin Lee is down on pit lane. Here's a recap of what happened last year when we had wrecks, rain, and the beginning of a big year for Will Power. And Kevin Lee will talk to him in an interview that we taped before the rain came.
Dario Franchitti will lead the way into turn number 1. Oh, we have a spin, and we have a car one on top of the other. Oh! It's Alex Tagliani and Tony Kanaan.
Heavy rain falling on the streets of Sao Paulo.
And there is the red flag.
There is the command, and so here we go once again.
These people that are on the slicks are having no problem. Oh, the Mira's
going to miss the corner.
Excuse me, playing through.
Brian Briscoe has taken the lead. Here comes Ryan Hunter-Reay back.
Oh, Briscoe's wide. Oh, he's in the tires.
Briscoe missed the corner. Will Power will look to the inside of Hunter-Reay and try to get the lead, and he will.
This is the comeback story.
Will Power wins over Ryan Hunter-Reay and Vitor Meira.
And last year's win here jump-started Will Power's season. It was his first as a full-time driver for Team Penske and his first back after a horrific crash at Infineon the year before. This year, you've won the pole every race. You could have won each time. You've won once. What needs to happen today?
Stay out of trouble. You know, I think today's going to be quite mixed up. I mean, obviously you people can't see up there, but it's looking pretty nasty, so we're going to have some rain. That's going to mix things up. It's going to be fun, but just hang in there, don't get taken out, and be there right at the end to fight it out, because you got that massive long straight, plenty of passing, and save you push to pass.
Qualifying speeds were up almost 6 seconds. How much better is the track this year?
Oh, man, I tell you, they've done a fantastic job. This is top standard. I mean, they've set the standard for street courses. I mean, it's like a smooth road course. It's awesome. A lot of fun. Great to drive on.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Will Power won the pole yesterday. That was, by the way, the 200th in IndyCar racing for Team Penske. Bob?
Will is second in points, 6 behind Dario Franchitti. And as you can see, Mike Conway, who was the winner 2 weeks ago at Long Beach, has moved to 5th in points. The entire top 10 separated by just 58. Dario Franchitti, as we mentioned, is currently the points leader. He finished 7th here last year, and Dario Franchitti will start 6th today, and hopefully we can get this race going in the next few minutes. The rain, it appears to be stopped, and so hopefully we'll get things going here in just a few moments. The car of Helio Castroneves being rolled to its pit position. He is currently 13th in points. More on his action-filled year today when we return to the Sao Paulo Indy 300.
IndyCar Central on Versus is presented by Verizon, official wireless partner of the Eyes on IndyCar Series.
My goal was just basically not making mistakes and finish, and obviously that was a huge mistake.
Oh, look at Castro. That was, he took out his teammate. I can't believe it.
Pretty blatant, but, you know, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's not very good.
We don't take each other out. That's that's an acceptable thing.
Lost probably a pretty good chunk of points to Franchitti. We're looking like a good day here, but that's racing and that's double file restarts, you know.
I taking all the blame. There is nothing that I can say about, but I'm really upset. I'm sorry.
Fans and drivers, a lot of people talking about that incident at Long Beach, one of many involving Helio this year. Allenser Jr., one of the IndyCar officials in race control, was quoted as saying, "We keep track of drivers and will continue to watch Helio." And here was Helio's reaction when we talked to him yesterday.
It's the beginning of the season that I certainly not want to have it, but unfortunately it happens, and we just got to turn the page and keep going. But it's not typical. So we gotta hopefully we're here in Brazil, get them some positive energy, and go out there and do our best.
Here with Wally Dallenbach and Jan Beekes, and Wally, he says that he'll put it behind him, but can he really?
No, not really. I mean, everybody makes mistakes as a driver, but Helio's been making a lot of mistakes. And I know as a driver, you sit there and go, you know what, I'm going to put it behind me. It's a new weekend. We're going to go out. It's not. He has got to go out and put together a good race, be clean, win the race, then it'll be behind him. But believe me, right now he's losing a lot of sleep over this because it's not usual for Elio to be running into people, but he's got a lot of people watching him, so no, it's not behind him just yet.
One of the people that he ran into earlier was Justin Wilson, and when we arrived in Brazil, we saw this banner on the back of Justin Wilson's car indicating the number of times that Elio has had contact with another driver, and note at the bottom it says space available in this particular weekend. Now, we also talked with Justin Wilson about the officiating that's been going on, and this was his take.
So, we just want to know what the rules are. If there's no rules, contact's allowed, that's fine with us. We'll go out there and race and bang wheels, but they tell us one thing and then they don't back it up. So that's, I think, why a lot of people are getting frustrated, fans, drivers, teams, and that frustration can be come out in many different ways.
Robin Miller's a man never lost for words. We heard Justin talking about the officiating. What's your opinion?
Bobby, the drivers want to see Brian Barnhart be not only consistent, but they want to see some real teeth in some of these rules. They want to see somebody like Castroneves get penalized a lot more for what he's doing than just a hand slap. Take, for instance, Wally Dallenbach, senior. 20 years, he was the Kart's chief steward, made a lot of tough decisions, lost some friends because of it. After the 1998 finale, he told Paul Tracy, you're going to miss the start of the 1999 season for your rough driving. Sent a message to everybody in the community, this guy means business. And I think that's what everybody wants to see Brian do. Don't just say, you went to the back and that was good enough. Make this guy miss a practice session. Take a red set of tires away. Or maybe just say you're not going to run the next race. Do something that's going to send a message and make people say, look, you're really serious about this.
And I think it's worth taking a look at the rule in play. A competitor must not initiate or attempt to initiate avoidable contact that results in the interruption of another competitor's lap time or track position. Well, certainly that's clear. That's crystal clear. But there's another rule that says the senior official, in his discretion, may levy penalties. So therefore, even though that is concrete, the penalties are not. Senior official being Brian Barnhart, we had an opportunity, and I asked him this morning two things. What about Justin Wilson's comment that it's not consistent? He says, we feel we've been consistent because we've been levying penalties if there's avoidable contact, if someone is making an unsafe maneuver. If it's not an unsafe maneuver, we're not penalizing them. Well, that's what got the drivers all so fired up to say, hang on a minute, so now you're trying to judge intent? That doesn't make sense. So I said, how do you answer to Justin Wilson? He says, well, those guys are fired up because their days were ruined and they were innocent victims. But in this sport, there's no way as officials we can give that back. Now, to Robin Miller's question, can the penalties be more severe? He says, well, they could. That's a completely separate issue, and maybe we need to look at that.
All right, thanks, Jan, and thank you for joining us for IndyCar Central on Versus, presented by Verizon. We'll be back with more from Brazil in a moment.
Drivers to your cars. Pilotos aos seus carros.
Welcome back to Sao Paulo, and the command to start engines is just about to happen. Good news, the race will not be delayed. It will be a wet race, so everybody's going to be starting on wet tires. But as far as the race being delayed, that apparently is not going to happen.
E agora o presidente do grupo Bandeirantes de Comunicação vai dar o comando para que os pilotos liguem os seus motores.
Drivers, start your engines.
And there you have it. The command has been given, and the engines are fired up, ready to go here. It rained a lot, and there may be puddles in some areas of the racetrack, but it is okay to start the race on. They will go around 3 times before they get their green flag instead of 2.
And Bob, you talked about it being declared a wet start. That means you're required by the rules, you have to start on the rain tires.
Let's take a look at this 2.536 mile 11 turn street course.
We've talked about how it's the largest city in South America, and there's 7 million vehicles that typically are in the city and run on these roads. But today, not the case. The streets of Sao Paulo, very unique in that 8 of these corners are down to first gear. But check out this back straightaway, the longest place, any place that the Indy cars run, almost a mile long, 180 miles an hour. Now, it's different than last year because remember, the Sambadrome straightaway last year was a little bit of a slippery dance floor, certainly for Ryan Briscoe. This is going in a straight line. He can't even keep it straight. It wasn't just Ryan Briscoe. Look at Tony Kanaan's on board. When they first got here, there was just no grip on this straightaway. Everything, woo, look out, baby, I'm on a slick track. And they therefore had to delay qualifying. Look at yesterday, though. The first time they hit the track, it had been pre-ground this year in the same way that you would grind an airport runway with radial grinding. Lots of grip for Vitor Meira, but look at the end here. There's a transition, a big bump for Scott Dixon, put him down the escape road overnight. They have ground that down and made it about 20% better, Wally.
But you know what? With all that grinding, not going to matter right now because it's pretty slick because it's wet. But this back straightaway, this is a driver's dream right here. Like Ron said, it's almost a mile long. I mean, you are flying down this back stretch. What a great shot from Tony Kanaan here. About 93 passes for position last year at this race. And the great thing about this corner you're coming up on, it's very wide, it's very smooth. Turn 11, it shoots you back on the straightaway. It's a great place to overtake. As you see here from a shot from last year, there's a lot of room to do some outbraking, and we're going to see a ton of it today.
A lot of good passing zones here at Sao Paulo, and wow, the fog and the cars are lifting a spray, and this is going to be interesting with the visibility problems at the start of the race. The cars, as you can see, are on track.
That's the hardest thing about racing in the rain. I mean, Jan and I, we've done it. I love driving in the rain, but the hardest thing is seeing, and that's where you want to be up front. You get down that long back straightaway like we were just talking about, and the water that comes off the back of these cars just blinds the guys behind them. So you can imagine being about 7 or 8 rows back. It's going to be tough.
Well, let's take a look at the Mothers Poly starting grid. As we have documented, Will Power won his 4th consecutive pole position yesterday to start the season. Ryan Hunter-Reay, who finished 2nd here last year, will start in 2nd position. Row number 2, Scott Dixon and Ryan Briscoe. The 3rd row has Graham Rahal and Dario Franchitti.
And Graham Rahal has had a bounce in his step all weekend. He loved the car when it was unloaded off the trailer. He's been fast, but how will it perform in the wet?
A couple of drivers who have had their meeting on track earlier this year. Elio Castroneves and Justin Wilson back in row number 4. In the 5th row, the winner 2 weekends ago, Mike Conway and Takuma Sato. Starting back in row number 6, it's James Hinchcliffe and Sebastian Bourdais.
And how about James Hinchcliffe? He's been a breath of fresh air in this series. He stepped in the Newman Haas car. He's impressed everybody. I mean, this guy is a rookie, but you would think he's been running this series for years, so he is doing a great job.
In the 7th row, Simona Di Silvestro and Vitor Meira, one of the hometown favorites. Marco Andretti and Oriol Servia will start in row number 8. Back in the 9th row, you find Danica Patrick and rookie Charlie Kimball. Row number 10, Rafael Matos and Alex Tagliani, a Brazilian and a Canadian. In the 11th row, Tony Kanaan and J.R. Hildebrand. The 12th row has Sebastian Saavedra and James Jakes, 2 rookies. And back in the last row, Anna Beatrice and E.J. Viso, who did not qualify yesterday because he had a rather scary-looking incident, but they prepared the backup car, and he'll start in 26th position.
And for this week's Sunoco pit strategy, of course, I calculated all these numbers in the dry. I just did a recalculation for the wet. That range will be 25 now to probably 30 laps if it stays this wet. Of course, what that does is that opens up those pit windows, gives you more opportunity to hit pit road, and because it's wet, it'll be a 2-hour timed race for a maximum. Kevin?
Kyle Moyer calls the strategy for Ryan Hunter-Reay, who starts second. Well, with the wet conditions, the big question is, when do you go to the dries, assuming it doesn't rain anymore? So you really have to earn your money today.
Well, I think it will rain again today. It's going to rain off and on, so who knows? I mean, we're just watching exactly where the track is, just like everybody at home on the TV. But I'll tell you, I mean, you're going to have to get to them pretty quick. I mean, the new asphalt's going to dry pretty quick. You're going to probably get a dry track, and definitely slicks are quicker around here. That proved last year. So as soon as you can feel comfortable without making a mistake, but I think we're going to have some yellows before then.
One of the other big questions, because we have a straightaway that's almost a mile long and another that's almost as long as the straightaway at Indianapolis, is the level of downforce you put in. How do you come up with the right downforce level?
Well, I think it was a big concern before when it was dry. Now when it's wet, it's even a more concern because you need the downforce in the wet. It's going to take at least 20 laps for this track to grip up now. And so you're going to need the downforce, but, you know, lap 70, if I'm sitting second, I don't want the downforce. I want to get by somebody.
All right, good luck today.
Thanks.
Kyle Moyer with Andretti Autosport. Someone else to watch for. Now coming again from the back is Tony Kanaan. He qualified 15th yesterday, but penalized and moved to 21st. During qualifying, they changed the front wing and nose cone, and that is not allowed. So his laps after the nose cone change were disallowed. He had to stand on the early laps. That moved him back to 21st. Bad for him, good for us. We remember at Barber when he started 24th and was up to 14th on the first lap. So we'll watch Kanaan coming from 21st in his hometown.
And we have now less than a lap to go before we get the green flag, and you notice that we will have some color changes this week here. We go on with our onboard cameras, and here is looking out the back of J.R. Hildebrandt's car, the National Guard sponsored machine. Also, the car that we just spoke of in the, what we like to call Coyote Orange. It kind of reminds us of the colors that A.J. Foyt flew for many years. That's Tony Kanaan starting back in 21st position. Vitor Meira had a podium finish here last year, hoping to move up a couple of spots this year. He's driving the ABC Supply Company Special. Penske Logistics is the sponsor this week on Ryan Briscoe's car. And we also have onboard cameras with the two front row starters. That's Ryan Hunter-Reay, and there you see the pole sitter, Will Powers. And we get set to go.
And yes, these cameras will face forward, but if they were right now, you wouldn't be able to see anything. That's why they're all out the back.
They go through this complex of turns here. It leads to the back straightaway. What do you think, guys? Will we see Will Power go to victory again today, or is this rain going to be a very significant factor?
I love the rain because it's a great equalizer. Now, you know, Jan and I were talking about this morning. Some of these guys that run softer setups normally are going to be better in the wet. It's better to have a soft car. Makes the car roll, gives you more grip in the wet. So I think that's going to be fun to watch to see who gets up there. But for some of these drivers have been brought up racing in the rain, and that's going to make a huge difference.
And you're going to need to have been brought up racing in the rain with the kind of spray, as you already mentioned, it'll be coming down to take this green flag. If you're anywhere off the first few rows, it is going to be nearly impossible to see where you're going. This is where we've talked a lot about contact. We've talked a lot about respecting drivers. This is a case where you got to say, you know what? This is really going to be dangerous at the back. I've got to mind my P's and Q's.
But I predict there will be contact.
We had a big conflagration at the start of last year's race. It's wet. Will we see the same here this year? The Itavipawa Sao Paulo Indy 300 is underway. Here we go from Brazil. Down into turn number one. There's a transition that Jan talked about, and Ryan Hunter-Reay has missed the corner.
Oh, and
he's into the tires.
And here's the thing.
Here comes Serbia.
He's got to be really careful. That's all painted right there. Oh, we got guys.
Another
Castro Neves, Danica, and Simona.
Wow. While we were watching Ryan Hunter-Reay slide into that area when he missed the corner, we missed what happened back here with these three. There's Simona Di Silvestro's car on top of Danica's, and Helio Castroneves once again involved in an early incident.
You know, I said at the top of the show, you've got to get through a race to get your confidence back. This is not what Helio was looking for right here.
Here's the start of the race.
Now you can hear brakes were locking up at the rear and the front.
And what I was saying about Hunter Ray right now, you're on paint. When you're on paint in the wet, it's even slipperier than asphalt.
Now watch over to the right. We'll see what happens.
Castroneves. Wow, he was close. He was close to Franchitti. We'll see if there was contact between Franchitti and Castroneves. I don't know if there was. Looks he just got wide. Whether he had help, it's tough to tell.
Oh, there's.
And they stack up behind.
Simona's car going on top of Danica's. So once again, an early crash has eliminated at least 3 drivers, probably 4 here. Ryan Hunter-Reay into the tire barrier, but maybe they can get him refired and put a new nose on the car. Never a dull moment, huh?
Well, that 3 car, Helio's car certainly looked like it hooked to the left really, really hard. It's just kind of a weird, it was kind of a weird look to just lose it, but
he was trying to go to the left of Franchitti. This is Kanaan.
Kevin, what's going on with Kanaan?
Well, he's climbed out. They have attached a front nose, but it does not look like they're going to try to repair it. And he's been holding his left wrist in hand. He immediately took the left glove off, and he's talking to Mark Johnson now. If he's injured, it does not appear to be serious. The main issue may be damage to the car. Oh, yeah, the front left suspension is all bent up. So, unfortunately, it looks like Tony Kanaan's day in his hometown is done before it barely starts.
yeah, you can see that on the left front, the wishbones, lots of damage there.
All right, let's have some more replays here. This is from Vitor Meira.
Simona Di Silvestro going up the inside. Ooh. Well, they were 2 by 2, and unfortunately the track got blocked ahead of her by Castroneves.
So the guy who has had a bad season overall with only 1 top 10 finish this year, Helio Castroneves, is involved in a wreck at the first corner here at Sao Paulo. Back with more in a moment.
Sao Paulo Indy 300 on Versus is brought to you by Izod, the official apparel of the Izod IndyCar Series, available at Macy's.
Under caution here at the Sao Paulo Indy 300 because of an incident involved on the very first lap. Helio Castroneves, Danica Patrick, Simona Di Silvestro, and Tony Kanaan involved in that accident you see right there. Ryan Hunter-Reay slid off course, but he was able to get back in the race. And here's another replay. And it's still impossible to tell.
TK just took a shot to the left front. I think that's why his hand was hurt. He was trying to turn on the other side of Danica, and he clobbered her.
All right, let's talk to TK. Here is Kevin Lee.
And right now he's huddling with Michael Cannon and Mark Johnson with the team. Helio Castroneves just walked by a little bit. The two longtime friends embraced. What happened?
I wish I would know. I mean, I got hit from everywhere. And all of a sudden, I think Danica hit someone. I mean, I don't want to name it because we couldn't see anything. So, but I'm pretty sure I got hit from behind. I got hit from the side, and then her car all of a sudden came on top of mine, and then it hit my hand pretty hard. So, right now, I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna go see the best doctors we have in medical center. Here's the guys from IndyCar, so hopefully it's nothing serious, so I can be ready to go for Indy.
They're going back and they're trying to fix the car. If they get it fixed, are you well enough to drive anymore in this race?
I drove with a broken hand, so yes, I am. I have a huge fan base here that is cheering for me. I have a sponsor that bought a car for this race, and if I can, definitely I'll be out there and trying to stay out of people's way for sure, because I'm not going to be in contention for anything. But at the end of the day, we're professionals. We need to show the sponsors, and we are going to go back out, yes.
Right. Thank you, Tony Kanaan. And by the way, as you watch him make his way through the paddock this weekend, he is like a rock star here. People screaming, people following him around. He has a huge following here in his hometown of Sao Paulo.
So the race continues under caution with both Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan out of the race, and so is Danica Patrick. There is her car being lifted onto the flatbed. Helio's car remains on the racetrack.
You know what's amazing, boys, is that look at the Brazilian crowd, and they lose the two favorite guys are gone. Yep. Don't see one lap, and I think, Kanaan's going to go back out, but still, when you see something like that happen, they're so passionate, waving their flags and everything, and they're like, you wonder how many will stick around. You hope they do, but you don't know.
I think we talked about this last year, Robin, when it rained so hard. These fans didn't move an inch through a driving rain. They stayed right there, and they did it again this year.
Yeah.
Once again, some replays of what might have occurred that knocked 4 cars out of the, or at least 3 cars out of the race.
And we know already that Ryan Hunter-Reay, left of the screen, is going to go straight down the escape road. So then let's take our attention back over. Let's pause it here if we can. And it's worth certainly, I think, taking a really close look at where we are back in here. Okay, because that's Dario Franchitti, and then on the far side, that is Castroneves. So go ahead and let that roll. Now, why, first of all, is Castroneves hanging out there on the outside?
Still really hard to see if he really went to the left quick there. The only thing I can say, if there was contact, it was off of Franchitti's left rear, and it hit Elia's right front. But Kevin, maybe you can straighten it out for us because you're with the man.
Well, I know you really wanted a good result and a bounce back here at home. What happened?
Man, I tell you one thing. I thought bad things coming 3, but in my case, one more, 4th. So very upset because I gave plenty enough room. Just want to drive, go around the corner. Dario, whatever happens, he went deep. So.
Wow. Unfortunately,
in the throttle, his rear went sideways, and when it's sideways, it hit my right front, sent me straight to the wall. And I mean, there was not even, it was just a violent crash. And I probably helped him out because I don't know if he would be sideways, but probably straight him out. So not even know if he bent the left rear suspension, but very sad. All our associates, hopefully Indy, we definitely got to have our luck back because it's just frustrating.
That is Helio Castroneves, and on the replay we also saw that Danica Patrick came through the corner side by side on the outside of, I believe, Sebastian Saavedra, and that is the reason she ran into the back of Helio, and then Simona Di Silvestro also involved.
Sometimes, Wally, when you're under, and you talked about this on the open, Castroneves is under such a microscope, not just from fans and the media and officials, but for himself. I mean, he's trying to break out of this stranglehold he's been in. And sometimes when you're tentative, you don't make wise choices.
That's right.
That's when you make mistakes a lot of times, is when you're trying to be cautious.
But the thing about it is, even though I don't think that was Helio's fault whatsoever, because Franchitti got loose and he got into the right front, but it doesn't matter. When you've been in 3 situations already, anything that you're involved in, people are like, oh, there goes Helio again, taking a bunch of cars out. And listen, like I said, Helio is a world-class driver. And absolutely, as a driver, there's nobody that puts more pressure on a driver than a driver himself. You are the hardest critic on you. And like I said, this is very difficult for him because he's never gone through anything like this in his career.
We remain under caution here at Brazil. 2 of Brazil's favorite drivers, Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, involved in an early incident in Sao Paulo. the Eyes on IndyCar series on Versus today from the streets of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Next up, the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and we have extensive coverage of what goes on before the race happens. Saturday, May the 21st, it's pole day, and we will have coverage beginning at 11 o'clock Eastern time. That will be until 2:30, and then we'll pick back up from 4:30 until 6:30. On Sunday, bump day, will be on from noon until 6:30. And on Friday, that's Carb Day, we will also have the coverage of the Firestone Indy Lights Freedom 100 and the pit stop competition. The 500 Festival Parade is Saturday, May 28th, and you can see it here on Versus beginning at 5 o'clock. Well, we hear that we're going to get the green flag in one more lap. But don't forget, we have another two abreast restart coming up. Let's hope it goes a little smoother than the first time. This is the 14th consecutive race, by the way, that Will Power has led on a street or road course. The streak started with his win at Edmonton in July of 2009.
Wally, you're 1 for 1. You predicted contact. So how about on this restart?
I believe there will be more contact and even more after that.
You know, really, Ryan Hunter Ray was benefited by the crash because he was able to come back in to get a new nose and didn't lose a lap. So, yes, he starts at the 22nd position, but he's still on the lead lap.
Yeah, I want to go back to something. You know, I'm a huge fan of these double file restarts, but maybe they should take an exception when it's wet. It's hard enough starting these races, you know, when it's dry, but when you're doing it in the wet.
Now, he'll be pitting. You can continue with your thought, Wally, but people who are near the back will go ahead and take just a splash of fuel here to be sure you have that little extra to play some fuel strategy later on.
Turn it off.
No, it's just it's still running.
Oh, okay.
And it's quick stop.
And again, the idea behind this is that you're already at the back. You're not losing track position, so you're just topping up. So if you need to go on a long stint, you've got some extra fuel. You're not really giving up much.
And don't forget, this is time, so that can definitely play into your favor.
Yeah.
You know something else? Graham Rahal is third now. He was a benefit in that first little schmozzle in the first lap, but in 2007 when he was a rookie in Champ Car, he was leading the race at Mont-Tremblant in a downpour, and he was pulling away from Justin Wilson and Bourdais, who had Formula One experience. So this might be his bailiwick.
I haven't heard the word schmozzle since Laverne and Shirley.
Or bailiwick.
Well, you know, Bob, I'm a grad student, so I picked those things up in the 9 years I spent in high school.
Okay, I got you. Well, they line up 2 by 2. Power on the left, or right rather, and Scott Dixon beside him. Then it's Rahal, Briscoe, Franchitti, Conway, Wilson, Sato, Hinchcliffe, and Bourdais, the top 10. Here they come, 2 by 2 through turn number 11, what they call the victory hairpin. Nice formation as they come down. Will they get the green? Yes, they do. Here we go, and keep your fingers crossed.
So far, it looks good. Yeah, everybody's being a lot more careful this time.
Oops,
oh, no,
Dixon.
you're kidding me.
Dixon is around. Oh, and another.
Bourdais.
Hinchcliffe.
Wow. And a couple of other cars at the top of your screen. Justin Wilson and James Hinchcliffe. And there is also James. Boy, it is just incredible. Even with the rain tires, it's just really, really slippery out there.
Still stay green.
Yeah, no full course caution. Trying to get Justin Wilson's car refired. Here once again is a look at it. Watch the second place car. He just simply loses it. Yeah,
just putting the power down.
Yep.
There's just contact in the back there. Yeah, Wilson got turned around.
Bourdais.
All on his own. Just too much power too soon. That moves Rahal up.
He didn't touch anything, though. He didn't make contact with the wall.
Oh, this is good from Will Powers. Onboard camera.
Listen. Just when you're hitting the throttle there.
So Graham Rahal started 5th, but he is now 2nd. And we're seeing a lot of spray, but can't really find an image there.
So they have stayed green.
Yep.
They've managed to move the cars out of the first set of S's. Now Graham Rahal has just gone straight.
So the second place car spins, and that's going to move Ryan Briscoe up to 2nd place in the yellow car. The pictures you're seeing are from our host broadcasters in Brazil. We don't have much control over what we're seeing. There is Ryan Briscoe now in 2nd position. Right behind him is Mike Conway, the new star of the Eyes on IndyCar Series by virtue of his win 2 weeks ago at Long Beach.
There's
Ryan Hunter-Reay, and he has a rear wing missing. It's not missing. There it is, but
it's not doing him any good.
Supposed to be, yeah.
That's the thing with these cars, especially in these conditions. You have just got to, when you're working the gas pedal, you almost have to treat it like there's an egg underneath the pedal. You've got to just lay the throttle down very slow, keep gradually feeding it. Where Dixon probably gave it a little bit too much. Here we're on board with Hunter-Reay. And that's, I mean, just a little bit. He got on the throttle a little bit too. It just doesn't take much. I mean, very, very difficult conditions to be driving in.
James Jake slid through there. No contact. Same with Dixon. Going by, making up time after his very similar, putting the power down, stepping around. Of course, unfortunately for Ryan Hunter-Reay, he received damage, and as you said, Scott Dixon apparently didn't hit anything with his pirouette. Wow, look at the rain now.
Yeah, it's really coming down. Full course caution coming.
Yeah, when it rains this hard and you have standing water like you start seeing, it gets really, really bad. You know, obviously a good call right now because it's just, this is what you call torrential.
Yeah. The driver who has benefited most here in the early laps, gained the most positions, is J.R. Hildebrand, who...
Well, there he is. Not any longer, Bob.
Yeah, and
Vitor Mira, upper right.
Matos over there to the left of J.R. He had moved up from 22nd to 10th.
Yeah, that turn 2 is giving people a lot of problems right there. And it's just when you're squeezing the gas on.
Sebastian Bourdais. Now, this would be the second time because he had that on the restart. Now, this is more recent. Here's Vitor Mira on the brakes. Whoa! Just misses Marco. A replay for Bourdais. Now, there are 2 other cars that were involved in this Mira incident. We'll see how they ended up down there. Oh, look at that. Wow, what a great shot. When you lock the rear brakes,
it's over.
It's over, baby. And there's 2 other cars that end up down this escape road.
So Mira, who had such a great run here last year, finishing in 3rd position. His badly damaged race car is in the way. There is Alex Tagliani.
Basically like driving on ice and not using your defroster. I mean, for somebody at home to figure, you know, trying to find out what it's like.
Or the wipers.
Or no wipers. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly. You cannot see, and everything is sliding around no matter what you do. You have to do everything in slow motion.
The race has been stopped. Red flag. Just too much rain, conditions too bad to continue this fiasco. That's Paul Blevin holding the red flag, and you can see he's getting pounded by the raindrops. Track crews busy in a lot of areas of the racetrack getting wrecked vehicles out of the way. So on the 10th lap of this, what was supposed to have been a 75-lap race, but turned into a timed race when it began under wet conditions, we have a red flag.
And when there is a red, the clock does stop. does not continue to run during the red. So that's the reason they would go red, is to stop the clock and obviously figure out what to do with standing water.
Well, Ryan Hunter-Reay, among the many drivers who had problems here in the early going. He's been involved in a couple of incidents in the early part of the Sao Paulo Indy 300. The Tabe Haba Sao Paulo Indy 300 has been stopped because of a torrential downpour. The race began under wet conditions with a little bit of rain, and we've had several accidents that basically were caused when the rain became harder, and it is just downpouring now to the point where it is unsafe for the drivers, and so they have been moved into the pit area. They're still trying to get wrecked cars off the racetrack, it would appear. Well, Kevin, I don't have to ask you how the weather is down there. I think we already know.
It's not good, Bob. This is about the same level of rain that we had last year, but it didn't rain for that long during the race. But this is the second basic monsoon that we've had so far today. It started sprinkling about an hour before the race, rained hard right before the race, stopped. Now it's been raining again hard for the last 10 minutes or so, and it really couldn't be raining any harder. So even if it does ever stop, this is going to be wet the entire time. We're going to have huge puddling. They do believe that some of the changes they made in the track is going to help the drainage this year, but it's going to simply be a major issue for the rest of this race. Luckily for Will Power, he said, I like racing in the rain, even though I am starting in the point. He seemed to kind of welcome changing things up a little bit.
The race last year was stopped on the 37th lap for rain. There you see the work being done on Tony Kanaan's car, and Tony is back there watching things happen. And he's being told that the race is red flagged, and so they can't work on the car.
Correct.
Go ahead, Kevin.
We'll probably let you resume here in a minute.
Bob, they can put a cover on the car. They can also hook up the battery, but teams are told they cannot do any work on the car right now.
Okay, thank you. Rules are being explained to the crew members as they cease their work on the car that TK damaged in the first lap.
And on that shot, it's pretty apparent that this area right here is one of the many areas that they're going to need to bring attention for Tony Kanaan. Still a fair bit of work to be done.
All right, let's go back to the original restart.
The original start of the race. I want to again stop it and look at the Castroneves situation. Let's stop it here and draw your attention to the two of these guys here. Now, Castroneves stays to driver's left of Dario Franchitti. Let's let it play. And he talked about how when Franchitti got on the power, that pushed him into the wall. Now, the interesting thing is we see others taking avoiding action. If we go to the restart, it was a similar situation. Again, that caused a chain reaction. So, again, restart. Let's let them roll into where they're getting ready. Now, I want to keep an eye on Franchitti. So let's stop it here. And now this time, let's watch this. So here we have an identical situation to what Castroneves was involved in. So what does Franchitti do? Does he stay there or does he get clear? And that was my question about why Castroneves didn't get out of there. See, he drops back. He gets off of the power. And, of course, part of it is because his teammate is spinning pirouettes ahead of him. And then, of course, all pandemonium breaks loose behind. But the point is that if you are in that situation and it is that slick, that Dario Franchitti, I think it's obvious now, made the wiser choice of, hey, I'm on the outside. I don't want to be here, backed off, and let Mike Conway go.
I just don't know if Elio had the room to, I don't know if Elio had the room to do that on the start because they were stacked up on that restart. Those guys got single file pretty fast, you know, the first 4 or 5 guys. But Elio was kind of pretty far up on Franchitti. I really don't know if he had the option. I guess he could have just backed off, but if he would have backed off, you're always worried about, if I back off, I'm going to lose 3 or 4 positions. But, you know, you won't be in the wall as well. So that's really a tough call on.
The rain is coming down in buckets. It's awfully hard to tell a race driver to back off.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm not sure that anybody's ever done
Yeah, I mean, Elio was, like I said, he was pretty far up on Dario. And, you know, I think he committed himself there. I believe Elio would have made it through the corner if Franchitti didn't bust loose and hit his right front and knock him into the wall. He didn't make a mistake. He stayed there, but Franchitti's the one who knocked him into the wall.
Well, you can see that the stands are pretty much empty now, at least in areas that are not covered. All the crowd has moved back under cover and watching the incredible rain continue. Yesterday was a beautiful day here in Sao Paulo, but not so today, as the Sao Paulo Indy 300 has been red flagged. For the second year in a row, heavy rain falls on the Sao Paulo Indy 300 IZOD IndyCar Series race. 10 laps have been completed, and we are under a red flag. The conditions are just too bad for the race to continue. As you can see, there is heavy rain falling, and there's a lot of ponding on the racetrack itself, and so it's just not safe for the drivers. Many cars have slid off the track so far in this race, eliminating several of the top contenders, including Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, 2 of Brazil's favorite race drivers. So we will do a little fill, as they say here in the business, and talk about how it's too bad that this race, which, as we know, is very, very popular in Brazil among the Brazilian fans, has had this rain 2 years in a row and put a damper on things.
It's a great course. I mean, and we saw some great action yesterday in qualifying. And, you know, a little bit of water is fun to watch, and I think the racers like a little bit of rain, but in these conditions, there's nothing you can do. When you can't see and you have absolutely no grip, it's just carnage. So it's the right thing right now, and hopefully the rain will stop and we can get this thing going again.
Yeah, and the technical side of that, the 2 issues that they have to deal with, of course, are the aquaplaning, and that is that when you have so much water that even the grooves and those Firestone Firehawks are just not going to dissipate the water. You ride up on top of it, and you've got no hope of changing the direction of the car. And then, like you said, visibility. You know, visibility has certainly been a huge issue from the start, restart, and now it's crazy.
What year was it that Indianapolis ended in such a downpour?
75.
Yeah, 75.
And people are sliding backwards through the short chute. Vukovic almost gets up in the infield and hits almost hits a cameraman. And of course, those were on slicks. But you know, we get letters. People say, "Well, they got rain tires. Why don't they run?" And you just explained it. There's a reason they can't run in this.
There apparently will be a second race in Brazil next year in September of 2012, giving race fans in another city an opportunity to see the drivers and the stars of the IZOD IndyCar Series. That has not been officially announced yet, but word is that it probably will happen.
So you pretty much just left the cat out of the bag on that one. Thank you. Hear it here first.
Word is.
Well, he phrased it right. If the check clears, because I think Cart still owed a bunch of money from the 90s and the late that decade just because they didn't get paid. But, you know, Wally said, we thought we heard some gunshots ring out. I think they just told the Brazilian fans it's a timed race. I don't think that went over well.
It does look like this track is draining. I think, Jan, you were mentioning earlier that they did some work there. That's the biggest thing after a rain like this. It's hard to get those puddles, that standing water off. But so far, a lot of this looks good. They may be able to get back to it pretty quick.
And this isn't really atypical. I remember last year when they were trying to get this event together, Tony Kottman told me when they were trying to do the setup, they had 50 straight days of rain trying to get this together, which was why it was somewhat last year done, I wouldn't say haphazardly, but they didn't get the kind of paving done they wanted to. Now this year, they had time, got it done ahead of time with the asphalt that they were looking for. So if it stops raining, it'll drain. We should be good to go.
Yeah, let's hope it ends very soon. In the meantime,
Robin Miller is going to sing a song for us all.
You know, I was just looking at the monitor. You guys are all got ties on. I didn't get sent a tie. Versus didn't send me a tie.
Would you wear one?
Oh.
There is something that happens during the month of May in Indianapolis that we will talk about when we return. the centennial celebration at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the running of the 500. More on that when we return.